850 Mod 12 Tort Liability Response Presentation. Tort liability is the idea that individuals are responsible in the law for the consequences of intentional acts. Are one type of defamation, false imprisonment. These are essentially all intentional choices made by an individual to be negligent torts. These come from bad choices not necessarily meant to hurt someone, but do result in harm. These could be from breach of duty, a breach of a duty to protect. When looking for 5 different cases of torts in schools, first I came across was Evans versus Oaks Mission Public School. This hit the Oklahoma Supreme Court in 1997. It was a case of a young man. He ended up being a senior when this happened, but in previous years of high school, he was in high school sports. As a senior, he was in a class that included 4 days of lifting weights and competitive sports on Fridays. He was injured during a wrestling day. Reactive measures that we would take in sports such as wrestling would no longer be allowed in PE until the court deciding that wrestling could be taught in PE, but it would not be a full contact sport. You could walk through some things, but they would not be allowed to. A second example of torts in the schools that I found is Barnett versus USD 259, which is the Wichita district right in my backyard. This hit the Supreme Court of Kansas in 2001. There's a high school football player on the first day of voluntary summer practice. Negligent and gross negligent charges were filed at school. A new policy would likely be added in order to increase the presence of medical professionals. A third case that I found with that covered torts in schools. Munn versus Hotchkiss School. A 15-year-old bitten by a field trip to China. Student ended up getting encephalitis, which led to neurological damage resulting in permanent loss of speech. The parents schooled the district and the school, claiming it was negligent for not warning that the trip could lead to possible exposure, as well for failing to ensure protection of students, making sure they were dressed appropriately or using bug spray. Ultimately, there's a judgment for a total of $41.5 for the parents and this girl. That might occur at my school. No more increased education sessions for parents to inform. Also, parental education forms would likely be filled out stating they had been made aware of potential dangers. But hopefully it would increase the school's efforts to educate the parents. Another instance was Donna Andriozzi, PPA. Her son was running with the cross-country team around the track. He ended up colliding with a bench that was left in lane 1, ended up falling, ended up with a broken arm. The parents filed negligence claims against the district, the school, and the teacher for failure to ensure a safe environment. Because he participated voluntarily, this does serve as an eye-opening example of what students or coaches need to do in order to make sure their players are safe. Reactive measure at my school is changes would likely be made to reduce the likelihood of a similar event occurring. Coaches would likely have to walk in the area prior to student arrival to check for hazards. In this case, they were tracked not on their own school site, so I would say that perhaps our school would say that site practices would become the norm. Another case was Hall versus Jones. This occurred in the Alabama state. The gym teacher was not present. He had actually gone into the locker room to deliver a message to another gym teacher when they could not hear the loudspeaker. One of the boys involved in the teacher for negligence and wantonness, claiming the defendant breached his duty to supervise the boy. Unvalid reason for not adequately supervising the students, and was found to be responsible. Reactive measure that would be likely at my school would be additional teacher training to reinforce the expectation that students will have immediate supervision of all time. Maybe office aides that would decrease the likelihood of a teacher having to deliver a message to another teacher. Professional ethics that would be in place to help protect you be simply to follow the golden rule. I found in my life that if you treat others with as well, this is going to decrease the likelihood of many instances of negative things. You would be needing to abide by school policy and law, set a positive example for others, both staff and students, and be visible. If the students see that you're around, they're less likely to make bad choices. Being visible is the number one deterrent I found to negative behavior in an elementary classroom. Document. This would include anything that occurs in your classroom, as well as parent contacts. Do not leave students unattended. One last thing, be ever conscientious